Right then guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's very warm today. This is me dressed for summer. I'm not in a black hoodie, I'm in a grey hoodie. But yeah, I hope everyone's well. I'm just going to run you through my push session today. It's very hard to say push session next to each other. You have to do it really slow like that. But yeah, I'm going to take you through that because Reese is in Leeds with a female. So I'm training on my own, which is sound. I enjoy training on my own. I don't have to listen to Reese's shit and I can just get on with things. So I'm going to film the session and then I'll do a walkthrough running through sort of my thought processes and why I'm doing what I'm doing and my sort of internal monologue, I guess, for the sets. So yeah, sit back, relax, enjoy, like and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I will catch you in the walkthrough. Right then, I'm just going to go through some considerations for solo training. So seeing as I did speak about in the intro, seeing as Reese left me this week, I had 2 sessions on my own. So I had this session which was pushing arms, then I had a leg session as well. So I'm going to run through some of the considerations as we go through the video as to what may differ when you're training on your own and what you need to think about in order to make any adjustments. So running on the screen now is basically just what I always do at the start of my session. So at the minute I do some thoracic spine mobility work, basically just to try and improve my scapular issues that I have at the minute, and also to help in terms of just warming up the scapular area for the pressing. I actually do this prior to every session, just as like, it's kind of like a rehab exercise to try and improve the scapular problem, but also like do my warming up my hips and hip musculature as well. So yeah, that's what I'll do to start off, and then the first movement is a lateral raise. So it's a single arm Watson lateral. We use the cuff. I believe me and Reese were the first people to use the cuff on a lateral, but I may be wrong. But I didn't see anyone doing it before we did it. But yeah, what I'm trying to do here is align my shoulder joint with the axis of rotation, which you can see there on the video. And I'm just thinking to drag the elbow out. Here, obviously, if you've not got someone to spot you or help you, you're not going to be able to take a forced rep. And just make sure if you're going to use a gym pin to use the clip to hold the gym pin in place. For obviously, you've not got a training partner to hold it in place. So yeah, that's the first set was a 2-second contraction. The second set continuous on that. Then I go on to the Watson incline press. So with this one, as you can see, the foam, they're called yoga bricks, the 2 foam like squares, rectangles that fall. I'm putting them in a position so that I'm basically not putting my shoulder in an uncomfortable position going into my passive range of motion. So that's why they're in place, and as I press they obviously fall out, so then I just have to make sure on that final eccentric that I'm controlling and not dropping into that passive range. Sometimes you can just use a collar, a barbell collar, but on this machine it's still quite deep, so I also add the yoga bricks as well. Obviously if you had a training partner, they might be able to give you the first rep as a spot to again save you from putting pressure on the shoulder and the rotator cuffs in that position. But again, training on my own, it makes sense to use something like the yoga bricks underneath to help with that. So again, 2 sets here. This is the first set's like aiming for like a 5 to 9, second set a 10 to 12, and I'm really just focusing on locking myself in through the floor, controlling the eccentrics to get the elbows to at least sort of past a 90-degree angle, and then really driving the elbows together, and obviously the path of the machine is going to drive them up anyway. You'll notice on the final rep on the second set, it looks like I sort of fail pretty easily, but that's because of the profile of the machine is so heavy in the shortened range, really hard to get the rep fully short, which makes it a good press for the first press. It makes it a good exercise for the first press, with the fact that we're going to struggle to get the pec short later in the session as we fatigue. But it is also like it's still really harsh in that shortened range. It's almost like too harsh, whereas jumping onto the next 2 pieces of equipment, the Nautilus pin loaded presses, you'll see that as they converge they actually drop off a little bit in the shortened range, so I can get closer to true failure on those through a full contractile range because their resistance profile is a little bit more favourable, especially later on in the session, or it's not late in the session, but obviously it's the second and the third press. So yeah, the second press is the shoulder press. You should have seen the first set there, 5 to 9. Second set is again sort of a 10 to 12. I've just left this clip in because this is kind of my routine or my ritual prior to the set. So I'll always take the elbow sleeves off and put them on again prior to the set. I don't like having them on too often. It feels like they cut off blood flow a little bit towards the hands. and then I'll have a little bit of my intra, and then I'll get a song on, and get a song to get me in the right frame of mind to go into the set. So everyone will have your own little routines. Obviously, again, if you've not got a training partner to sort of psych you up for a set, I know some people feel like they need that. Me, particularly, I don't feel like I need that from Reese, and vice versa. We would train the exact same on our own, or whether the other person is there. But the little things like, maybe grinding out one more rep, or helping pop up the first rep, things like that, for a lot of people will make a big difference. So try and think, if you have a training partner, then great. But if you don't, don't rely on having a training partner. You don't need a training partner in order to make you have a better session. But yeah, the Nautilus shoulder press, really nice machine, really light. So you'll see on the first set I had to stack it plus 45 kilos and then 20 kilos on the back off added to the stack. On the first set, I did slide forward a little bit too much. I'm trying to keep my hips back there. I'm trying to keep my elbows directly under the line of the machine. You'll see my elbows stay sort of with the path that the machine goes in. That's just to make sure that generally my shoulders are staying in a safe position, and I'm directly under the line of force to be able to generate as much force as possible, be as efficient as possible with the movement. So then I go on to the third press. So this is a little bit more of a tricep focused movement, with it being a relatively close grip, trying to keep my elbows tucked in, and the seat's quite high in order to keep the elbows tucked in, not letting them flare too much. So that horizontal abduction of the arm is what's going to generate more pec fibers. But if you keep that elbow tucked in a little bit more, yes, you're still going to get some pec, but you're going to get a little bit more tricep. And again, really nice machine as it drops off as slightly anyway into the contracted position, with the fact that it converges as the path of the levers come together. So again, 2 sets there, slight pause in the lengthened position, with the fact that, again, later on in the session, trying to get as much out of the muscle in its full range as possible. So as I've still got a little bit more, let's say, contractile potential in the lengthened position towards the end of the session, I want to spend a little bit more time there. So then we go on to a costal cable fly. So you'll see I set the bench up with 2 dumbbells behind the bench, so that's the bench doesn't go back, like slide backwards when I get into position. And again, if you're with someone who's training with you as a partner, they can pass you one of the D handles. If you don't have a training partner, then you probably need to set up how I did, so I'm leaning back and sort of almost doing like a bit of a bicep curl, or having your biceps contracted and sort of getting into it like that, and then scooping together. That's what I'm thinking on that. I'm really thinking to scoop my elbows and my biceps together. I'm trying to get my humerus across the midline of the body. If I finish like this with my hands together and my elbows apart, I'm not actually getting my pec contracted. Very similar to like doing a leg extension and coming 2/3 of the way up. Would be the same if you did a fly and finish there. You're not actually getting your pecs contracted. So think to bring your biceps and your elbows together. Then we go on to some arm work. So a little bit of arms added onto this session. So I do a single arm cable curl facing the cable on the first set, and then the second set I turn away and face away from the cable. So the reason behind that is, I'm trying to get a little bit more out of the shortened range facing the cable, and a little bit more loading in the lengthened range facing away. This isn't something you'd need to do. This is sort of minor details that can potentially help a little bit. It's not drastically important to do something like that, depending on the level that you're at training wise. And just pick bicep and tricep movements that you connect really well with. I enjoy the cables. I connect well with the cables. My wrists are a little bit niggly at the minute, so I find that I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable and a bit safer on the cables with my wrists versus doing dumbbell work, especially on bicep curls. And then a tricep push down single arm. So you'll notice I'm pausing slightly in both ends of the rep, generally just to get a really good connection, really good contraction. And I like a pause in a lengthened range just to, again, get a bit more out of the muscle in its lengthened position, especially with the triceps. I think they work well, they respond well to loading in that lengthened position, especially overhead. If you're in some slight shoulder extension, you're going to get a little bit more of the long head, which is here, which takes up a hell of a lot of the tricep and therefore a lot of the arm. So if you've got a big long head, it's going to lead to a big arm. Then we'll go into like a rope. It's not a rope because we've got the cuffs on, but it's very similar to like a rope cable curl, but I use the cuffs to, again, reduce any internal joint pressure. Do a double drop set there, and then a drop set on a dumbbell skull crusher as well. Again, you'll see I'm pausing in this lengthened position where I'm in shoulder extension, trying to load that long head of the tricep as much as possible. And what I'll do there as well, obviously we'll do a drop set, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep my humerus behind the line of my shoulder. If my humerus is directly in line with my shoulder, if I just press straight up, then I'm just stacking my the load against my joints with gravity. There's no real sort of torque pulling me back if I'm just against gravity against my joint. So I need to be having my arms, my humerus slightly further back towards my forehead compared to being directly above the line of the shoulder, just to make it more challenging on the tricep throughout the whole movement. And then onto some lateral raises. So I'll just finish off with a drop set on lateral raises as well. But yeah, that's sort of pretty much everything in terms of the considerations. I've covered a few there. The main ones would be, you know, it shouldn't really make a difference whether you have a training partner or not. You should be able to put everything into every session regardless. Use little tips and tricks like, you know, setting up the yoga bricks under the levers on an incline press, setting up the dumbbells behind a bench so it doesn't slide back, you know, using your headphones, all these little things that should make sure that you still have a good session, whether you train on your own or you train with someone else. But yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll leave you with some posing as well. At the minute, I just do one round of posing after every session. So I'm doing posing 4 times a week. So obviously train 4 times a week, just to keep on top of it. And also obviously to keep in check with sort of how I'm looking and how I'm feeling. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Appreciate everybody watching. Any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Cheers, guys.